رمضان يا رمضان يا رمضان شهر الكتاب تلاوة وقيام رمضان يا رمضان يا رمضان شهر الكتاب.
And Indian students stuck in Ukraine are accusing officials of discriminating against them and pushing them back from getting to the border. Videos have been posted on social media said to show black people being prevented from boarding a train and left stranded at a railway station in Lviv as Ukrainians were allowed on. Others said they were turned back from the border and were even being shot at. Like this video, Indian students claim Ukrainian guards on the Polish border beat them up and didn't allow them to cross. Tens of thousands of international students have been stuck in Ukraine since the war started.
The head of the Polish border guard saying 15,000 people were coming into Poland in just the last 24 hours. When you look at what happened in the last refugee crisis in Europe back in 2015, Poland was one of the EU countries that, was hesitant to take in refugees. Talk about what has changed and the different position now.
Yeah, well, just to put it bluntly, these are not refugees from Syria. These are refugees from neighboring Ukraine. I mean, that, quite frankly, is part of it. These are Christians, they're white, they're very similar to many people who live in Poland, and they're also there are a lot of Ukrainians who live in Poland. These are countries that a lot of people travel back and forth. They maybe work in Poland or neighboring countries. They go back to Ukraine. They leave their families in Ukraine and send money back. So there is that connection as well as the cultural and racial connection. But there is a really, really stark difference this time, Hallie, and the Interior Minister saying yesterday, I believe, that anyone from Ukraine who comes to this border will be allowed in and will be allowed to apply for asylum.
Kelly Kobiela live for us there in Poland. Kelly, thank you so much.
It's very emotional for me because I see European people with blue eyes and blonde hair being killed, children being killed every day with Putin's missiles and his helicopters and his rockets.
And so, of course, I understand and respect the emotion. What you are outlining there is this tension between longer-term efforts to apply pressure to Vladimir Putin, such as financial sanctions, and the very immediate military threat which you're experiencing.
Now with the Russians marching in, it's changed the calculus entirely. Tens of thousands of people have tried to flee the city. There will be many more. People are hiding out in bomb shelters. But this isn't a place, with all due respect, like Iraq or Afghanistan, that has seen conflict raging for decades. This is a relatively civilized, relatively European, I have to choose those words carefully too, city where you wouldn't expect that or hope that it's going to happen. So it's partly human nature, but they are not in denial.
Population. As you're talking to us, Matthew, we're playing in the latest pictures of some of the refugees trying to get on trains or trying to get out of Ukraine. And what's compelling is just looking at them, the way they're dressed. These are prosperous, I'm loath to use the expression, these are prosperous middle-class people. These are not obviously refugees trying to get away from areas in the Middle East that are still in a big state of war. These are not people trying to get away from areas in North Africa. They look like any European family that you would live next door to.
Fuck off. On est au 21e siècle, on est dans une ville européenne et on a des tirs de missiles de croisière comme si on était en Irak ou en Afghanistan, vous imaginez?
Now the unthinkable has happened to them. And this is not a developing third world nation. This is Europe.
It's Robert Moore here in the studio.
Ils achètent d'aider la Pologne parce que ça va être une question importante. Et on parle pas là de Syriens qui fuient les bombardements du régime syrien soutenu par Vladimir Poutine. On parle d'Européens qui partent dans leurs voitures qui ressemblent à nos voitures, qui prennent la route et qui essayent juste de sauver leur vie, quoi. Et ça, c'est une question qui va être importante pour l'Europe.
Et c'est alors que face à cette... On voit bien ce qu'ils fuient et il n'est pas question de dire est-ce que vous êtes vraiment des réfugiés. On est au 21e siècle, on est dans une ville européenne et on a des tirs de missiles de croisière comme si on était en Irak ou en Afghanistan, vous imaginez.
Ça sera sans doute une immigration de grande qualité, en revanche. Ce seront des intellectuels.
Parce que ce sont des Européens de culture, même si on n'est pas dans l'Union européenne, on est avec une population qui est très proche, très voisine.
On ne parle pas là de Syriens qui fuient des bombardements du régime syrien soutenu par Vladimir Poutine. On parle d'Européens qui partent dans leurs voitures, qui ressemblent à nos voitures.
Il y a une différence entre les Ukrainiens qui, encore une fois, participent de notre espace civilisationnel avec des populations qui appartiennent à d'autres civilisations.
On aura une immigration de grande qualité dont on pourra tirer profit.
Nous ne sommes pas face à des migrants qui vont passer dans une logique d'immigration.
This isn't a place, with all due respect, like Iraq or Afghanistan, that has seen conflict raging for decades. This is a relatively civilized, relatively